welcome to Neurodiverse Generation, the podcast where we flip the script on what it means to thrive through neurodiversity. I'm your host, Jenna Evelyn, and today we're diving headfirst into the quirks, creativity, and challenges of the neurodiverse experience. Whether you're here to laugh, learn, or find a little inspiration, you've found your people. Please note that this program may not be suitable for younger viewers due to explicit language and mature themes. Parental guidance is advised. This show is aired for educational purposes. We are not licensed diagnosticians or counselors. Let's get the conversation rolling. I go way back with my guest today. We attended Bryanston High School together, participated in several high school pageants together, and recently got back in touch over our shared passion of pageantry. Today, Puleng Miya is a 2024 Miss Jozi finalist, thinker, dreamer, and literacy advocate. Congratulations on making it to the finals of Miss Jozi 2024. Can you share what inspired you to enter Miss Jozi 2024, and how has your journey in this pageant been so far?
Well, thank you so much for the question, firstly. I think what inspired me to join is I've been watching the journey of the organization for like about 2 to 3 years. And I was like,
Wow.
I really like the way that they work. They give you a chance to make an impact and they let you lead with what you want to do. And they give you a platform and they walk you through making an impact. And it's such a beautiful organization. And honestly, I really enjoy charity work. I don't know if that's like a real thing, but I really do enjoy it.
I feel that, dude. I feel that on a spiritual level, man. Some of the most fulfilling experiences you have will be in your charity work, in your philanthropy. There's a lot of I think a lot of satisfaction that comes from that, right?
Definitely. It makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside, even if I do say so. It's really a heartwarming experience. I honestly wouldn't go back, even if I was given the choice to. It's been absolutely amazing.
Wow, that is phenomenal. And I think it's very powerful to be with an organization that's allowing you such practical application of what you're trying to address here. It's really, really important. So
Yeah.
Literacy accessibility, I know, is your cause, right?
Yes.
And it's an important one. What sparked your passion for advocating in this space, and what specific changes are you looking to see?
So I've always loved books. I mean, we went to the same school and I was holed up in the library for particularly. Yeah. I loved that library with my heart and soul. It was amazing. And the joy that I found in books, just nothing ever replaced that for me. And I just wanted to share that with everyone. And the more I started, after leaving high school, obviously, the more I started interacting with people, I didn't really find that people enjoyed literacy as much as they should. They felt it to be more of a chore. And I was like, this is something beautiful that you can experience. And a lot of people would feel like because they didn't do well at school, because they kind of felt stupid in a way because they didn't feel they understood the work. And I'm like, you're not stupid. Your brain processes very differently. And it's something that could have been worked upon had you been given the resources. So my point in all of this is just giving people the relevant resources and making it accessible to them to make their learning experience so much better.
I think you're absolutely right about that, and it does come down to accessibility of it. Why do you think, it's maybe it's because of this link, right? The psychological link that we've made between, we see literature, literacy, all of that, and we're like, okay, academia. And it's not one and the same, right? It's completely different.
Definitely not.
There's a capacity to share knowledge in a way that isn't necessarily academic per se.
Yes. I feel like we've restricted ourselves to a very conventional way of thinking when it comes to it, like a person who reads is smart, but you can learn so much from a book than just basic facts. It can teach you about yourself, your personality, who you are.
And a lot of that can be explored through fiction as well. It doesn't even necessarily have to be nonfiction, right?
Definitely.
Oh, amazing. How do you see pageantry as a platform for raising awareness about literature accessibility? And what opportunities do you see for bridging the gap between those two worlds?
Oh, okay. So for me, pageantry, and it's been a very, very weird link trying to link literature to pageantry. But for me, it's about visibility. When you're in pageantry, it puts you at the forefront of society. You get to show what you're passionate about
Yes.
in a space where people automatically assume it's about beauty and how you walk and how you talk. Whereas it's a place for you to advocate for something that you're passionate about. So for me, pageantry gives you this place to like show what you're passionate about and to work on it and to serve people. And it's such a beautiful platform. I think pageantry is so misunderstood in that particular space. However, I totally love it. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
And
I get you.
I think I might have forgotten the second question.
Don't worry, this happens to me all the time, man. I'm really glad it's not me for once, actually. What opportunities do you see for bridging these two worlds together?
Okay, in the visibility, that pageantry provides, you get to link your passion to where you want to serve. So
Yes.
I think that in spaces like this, you will get the opportunity to meet people that you wouldn't have never met in your daily life. And
Absolutely.
this can be, pageantry will take you to places you're taught how to act, how to be, how to speak to people. And this opens so many doors. These doors impact your cause. You get donations, you get people who are willing to sponsor you, and you can fund your cause in any way and make it a possibility or take it from a possibility and make it into an actual real thing.
Yeah, wow. That is incredibly powerful. I think particularly in a world where there's so much emphasis placed on like how we look, how we speak, how we present ourselves in this brand that we put forward to the rest of the world, it's I think it's incredibly reassuring that platforms such as, these beauty pageants like Miss Jozi and that they're using this appeal that seems to draw people in of the looks and the glamour and the this, but to actually create an impact in things that really, really matter. And that's where I think beauty pageants have evolved from being a matter of I want world peace into a much more authentic way of creating activism, right?
Definitely for me. I think a lot of people are attracted, especially now in the whole social media space, a lot of people are attracted to how they present themselves, their brand. And
Yes.
what people don't realize is that you can use that to make such a big change. The
Absolutely.
traction that it draws in can make a world of difference to people that you don't even know, people that you haven't met. But that little bit of the way that you present yourself and the way that you carry yourself and the traction that you get from that, you
Yes.
can leverage that to make a difference. And that is something
Absolutely.
that pageantry is very good at.
And the capacity to do that authentically, though, is not something that every pageant contestant is capable of. For a lot of pageant contestants, I've found, at least in the pageantry space, it's a matter of getting the crown, and it's all the glamour and it's all the glitz, and ultimately it's the ladies who are able to bring in this authentic passion of this is who and what I am. I'm showing you my brand, but I'm not being inauthentic to who and what I am. So this is true to me, and because of that, it's true to my values and it's true to this cause, and you become such an incredible ambassador for causes like this.
Definitely. I think also there's a very big misconception about pageantry. Pageantry is hard work.
Big time.
Hard work.
Preach. Say it louder for the people at the back. Even just that walk, man. That walk that you've got to tailor and get to, and it's like shoulders and hips are the only things that move, and everything else is like boobs out, thumb out, like
it's such hard work. I think there's just this misconception that you can just go there and be pretty. You actually have to work. And if you're in a space such as pageantry where you're not necessarily authentic about the change that you want to make, it's very easy to look a bit off. If you're not passionate,
like it comes across, you can pick it up almost right away when someone is in it for the wrong reasons, right?
Unfortunately.
I mean, you get them in every field, I suppose. I mean, I knew teachers at our high school, who were in the business because, it was a 9-to-5 paying job, but it was definitely not what they wanted to do, nor what they should be doing. in your view, how can we create a more inclusive educational environment that caters to neurodiverse learners, particularly in terms of literacy? Because I think in this context, we're talking about accessibility of information, right? And there are so many misconceptions when it comes to neurodiversity. One of the plainest, clearest ones is the fact that no one thinks about emotional dysregulation, for example, as a symptom of ADHD. No one connects the two. You think emotionally like haywire and you go, oh, bipolar. And it's based on these stereotypes and this misinformation that so much of our discrimination takes place. Do you think that there's an element to literature that could make a lot of this information a lot more standardized and a lot more accessible for everyone so we can change the dialogue around neurodiversity?
Definitely. There's a lot of, I feel like we're boxed into specific ways, especially when it comes to literature in education of neurodiverse people. When it comes to certain things, if you don't meet a certain criteria or if you don't fit a certain standard, you're automatically boxed out. You don't fit, like people don't try and reach you. If you don't understand something, it's more like you don't get it, it's fine. Whereas I feel it's unfair,
Yes.
when you want to learn, the whole point of having literature accessible, it can be right in front of you, but if you cannot digest the information and it doesn't engage you, it does not impact you. We need to find a way to make this information, it needs to engage everybody. Everyone can read a book. Everybody can read a book. It's a standard rule. But you need to find ways, especially if you're an educator or especially if you're in places where you are trying to make people understand information, libraries, for example.
Yeah, you could be working with dyslexic kids, for example, right?
Definitely. And just because they cannot do something doesn't mean that they are incapable of it. They just need a little bit of assistance and just giving them that little bit of leeway to just try and figure it out on by themselves, and try and make this information accessible to them, present it in a way that it benefits them and they can get it and they can understand it and process it. And pretty much that's all I have to say. I lost my train of thought.
Honestly, happens to me all the time. This is the losing the train of thought podcast. It's the back to the topic. So I get that completely, but that's especially powerful, I think, in the sense that you emphasize the importance of almost not quite delivery, but medium, if you will.
Definitely.
From a point of view of digestibility, that is an important point, and I think it's seriously underaddressed. What are some of the biggest barriers you've noticed in your fight to make literature accessible for everyone? And how can we start breaking those down, particularly for our neurodivergent readers, like we said, making it more digestible?
Oh, so something that I've encountered in my pageantry work is people who've kind of like lost hope. They have a reluctance to try again because the first time they tried, they didn't feel like they got the point of anything, Like, going through this and reading through everything, I found out that 9% of people drop out of high school, and not because they don't have, or perhaps there are different social issues that may impact this, but they don't have access to the information. And even if they do have access to it, they aren't able to grasp it, and that stuff, these are people who failed and they're like, I'm not going back to school. It hasn't changed my life. It hasn't taught me anything. And I'm just like, no, you get it. You need to be taught in a way that it's able to, like it needs to connect.
You might need to go from A to C to B, but you'll get to B.
You'll get to B at the end of the day,
right?
And it stems back to the thing about delivery. Some people learn by reading, some people learn by song, some people learn by actually doing physical activities.
Yes, kinetic memory and kinetic association, right?
Exactly. Things like that make it easier for especially neurodiverse people who don't think conventionally. It makes it easier for them to digest the very same information that's being taught in a different way, but is still accessible and processable to them. I think people just need to understand we all don't think the same. Everyone has a different thought process, and especially when you're trying to introduce literature in spaces where people are just downcast and they're like, you know what, I tried my best and it didn't work. It's very important to explain to them that, listen, you haven't failed. You need to try again. You can do it.
Capable.
And I think also, especially when it comes to the challenges, I think the reluctance is the biggest part that I've experienced. A lot of people are just like, I've tried and I've failed. And it's just about drawing those people in and getting them back to a place where they feel like, I can learn this and I can do this.
Instilling some resilience, right?
Yeah, just I can do this and I can use this to make my life better. Providing this information is more about leveling the playing field. And if we level the playing field, like we had resources, we went to a fancy school, if I will.
A fancy government school, for sure. As far as they go, which is definitely one of the fancier.
And for someone who's learning the same syllabus as us, who goes to a very, very poor school, I mean, like Alex High, for example, when I was in matric during 2020, they didn't have teachers. We had to have some of our teachers to go and teach their classes.
Wow.
And things like that. We're learning the exact same syllabus, but they don't have access to information that we have. Just leveling that playing field would make it so much easier for people to just get stuff.
Wow, I love that. There's this element that I'm picking up kind of like throughout your answers, where there seems to be a lack of connection between people in this day and age, and that comes down to things like business. Your schools, your businesses, they're not places that should be devoid of emotion.
Definitely, I feel like we've distanced ourselves. I think it's a issue of protection, like we're protecting ourselves from things that could hurt us. But I feel like it's created such a big disconnect, because when you arrive in a situation where you need help, but you're not necessarily afforded a place to seek it, it becomes a situation where you end up with people who are disconnected, and some people come off as abrasive or cold. And it's like, no, this is a person who needs help. They just haven't found the right place to seek it.
Yeah. And I think so much about like making this a bigger part of the conversation means creating that connection, because we're not talking about topics that people will feel comfortable revealing in a psychologically unsafe environment.
Definitely, and it's also about, you said, in a psychologically uncomfortable environment, you never know what you could say, and how that could be against you. And that's some of people's biggest fears of, if I reveal this, what could happen, what are the impacts, what are the side effects. And we need to afford people spaces where they can feel comfortable to talk about their issues and talk about things that they struggle with, so that we know how to help them.
And perhaps to realign somewhat the brand that you put out there compared to the person that you feel you are inside, because when those two are in dissonance and they're not talking to each other, the cloud's not sinking, Ruth. Then it doesn't work effectively in terms of trying to effectively and intentionally put your message across.
Definitely. Honestly, there's something that's said, or that my mom always says, you cannot pretend forever. At some point, it will always be too much. So if you are wanting to be in a space or in a position where you serve people, you need to be true to yourself, that this is what you want to do, because it does get tiring, it does get exhausting, and it's very heavy emotionally. Like, I've heard stories where I'm just like, I don't even know how to process this. I don't know how you lived through that, and if it's something as simple as that, you need to be sure that this is what you want to do and this is how you want to do it. You need to understand that you are your brand, and that link has to be there. You cannot disconnect yourself from that, because you're basically disconnecting yourself from your work.
Wow, that's so true. That is so true. And in showing that kind of connection, that kind of authenticity, you inspire other people to do the same thing. Because I can imagine how incredibly frustrating and disempowering it must feel sometimes to work with a lot of these individuals that you are so emotionally invested in. And at times it must feel like, what can I actually do to help this person? What can I do I feel powerless in this situation? But just talking about it and creating this dialogue is helping them already. So I have to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. I try my best. I don't do much, but I try.
All we can be is ourselves, and all we can do is our best. And some days our best looks different from other days. And I think showing one another and ourselves a little bit of grace would go a long way. We participated in a few high school pageants together.
Those are the times, eh?
Oh, dude, throwback.
Definitely. Oh.
I honestly thought I'd feel a lot more grown up by now. I feel like an overgrown toddler, Puleng.
It's so sad. I still feel 19. The other day, my mom was like, "You're 22." I'm like, "No, I'm not." Dang
What?
you.
Yeah, someone asked me my age, and I like 2 days ago or something. They were like, "How old are you?" And I was like, "I'm turning." No, wait, 23 is too much. Am I? It was a bit scary. Oh my god.
Scary.
So looking back, how did those early experiences in pageantry shape your confidence and your drive for advocacy today?
Ooh. Okay. I feel like, especially in a high school environment, there's a lot of support and it builds your confidence so much, you know.
Mm.
It's just a bunch of girls that you know that you go to school with every day, and we're all just happy go lucky, you know, in a pageant. But one thing that we don't realize is in spaces like that, there's so much reassurance and so
Structure,
much
right?
support, you know, there's so much structure in that. You gain so much, I don't know what the word is, you become very resilient. That's the word. You know,
Mm.
especially if you're planning to move forward in a journey where it's particularly interested in pageantry, you
Yeah.
have some kind of strength from those parts of yourself. You know, the little girl who was like, "I'm not sure if I can do this," and you have someone who's like, "You're good." You know, it builds up such a
Mm.
strong confidence, and you become this resilient person. Every challenge you encounter makes you a better person, and that's what
But
I feel like
you
high
the
school
keys.
was. High school was, oh, high school was a mess, but
High
it
school
did
was
make
a
me a strong.
vibe. I had a great time in high school.
But it was a lot. But I feel like it made me a stronger person. And
Mm.
just those encounters with the girls that we had, you know, during the pageants, just built up so much morale. Firstly, it was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
But also just the confidence and the strength, and also having to trust yourself enough to know that you can do this. That's
Yes.
something that's also very, very important, that you know that, okay, these are my limits and I can do this.
But
And
I
that's
think,
something I learned.
yes, yes. Simultaneously, it's a matter of women empowering women. And perhaps it's even more empowering because it's by
Yeah,
people who know the struggles that we deal with. And they say you can do it anyway.
definitely.
Mm.
You know, you be encouraged, someone else would encourage you, and it's just such a space of love and warmth, you know.
Mm. And
Outside of those confines, we are very different people, but in a space like that where people are vulnerable and people were just doing
mm.
something to try break out of their skin, there was so
Mm.
much support for all of us, and that morale carried us through the entire journey, and it was
Oh,
absolutely amazing.
oh,
So I wouldn't give that up ever.
for sure, definitely. We've reconnected after some time.
Yeah.
How has your perspective on pageantry evolved since high school? And what advice would you give your younger self back then?
Okay. So in high school, my perspective on pageantry was entirely superficial. I wouldn't lie to you. I was like, okay, crowns and sashes, yeah. Call my name. That was me. I was that girl. I was that girl. But after leaving high school and like digging more into this whole environment, I don't know if I should call
Yeah.
it that, but the whole
Yes.
pageantry space, I realized that it's more about serving the people than, you know, it's not about having a crown and it's not about looking pretty, because 80% of the time you don't look pretty. You know, you're in sweatpants and a t-shirt working, girl.
Look
We
at
got
me, man.
stuff.
I'm in my slippers.
We have stuff to do. This is not about being pretty, you know? And I
Yeah.
realized, and I think that's when I really fell in love with pageantry. Like, I was like, this looks like something I would love to do. I love giving back. I love being in a space where I can provide something to someone who does not have it. So for
Yes.
me, I was like, that, you know, that for me changed my world. In high school, it was like, oh, you know, crowns, yes, Miss South Africa, do your thing. But after leaving high school and seeing all these pageants, I was like, this is actually something so beautiful, and
And so much
it
bigger.
creates a connection between beauty and having a heart of servitude, and I love that. And
Yeah.
if I say it, like, give any advice to my younger self, would be, hmm, I'm stuck between two. The first one
Yeah.
would be, um never be afraid to take any opportunity, you know. Don't
Yeah.
stop yourself from taking opportunities, because you never know what that could have changed. And
Mm.
the second one is, just be loud, be yourself, because if you're going to shrink in a corner, you'll never survive, you know. I feel like
that,
leaving high school has made me so much more loud. It's crazy.
I get you. I think in that school environment, we end up, because it's like all we've ever known, right? We end up internalizing so much of what our perceived identity and role is within that school. And you realize when you leave school that actually things could be so vastly different. You can do anything. I can do anything, you know? And that is a strangely empowering thought. I particularly like the emphasis that you place on the right things. It's about using those God-given gifts, those God-given talents that go a lot further than the way you look, to emphasize the places that are lacking that emphasis.
Definitely.
Okay? Oh, that's stunning. I love
that's
that.
so beautifully phrased. Thank you. Sometimes words fail me, but I try.
Words fail me too, man. I'm permanently relying on other people. That, like, you know what I'm saying, though? You know
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond Miss Jozi 2024, what is next for you in terms of your advocacy work, and how do you plan to continue driving the conversation around literacy accessibility?
Okay, so currently, hopefully within the next 2 years, it's always been my dream to build a library, like a fully functioning library for an underprivileged school, and I'm working towards this. Hopefully, I don't know if it can happen in my tenure as a Miss Jozi finalist, or even if I do make it through to, win the crown, but it's something that I intend to carry forward, because it's always been something that I've wanted to do. I want to make this change, and I want to have this information accessible to everyone, not just people who are in a position to be able to do that for themselves. So personally, I am so stoked about just providing this stuff out. I mean, I've got a living room full of books. It's bad, but it's good.
I've got so many old books I can donate to your library, babes. I'm so down for it. And I think what strikes me about this is, knowing you as well as I do, I also know that whether Miss Jozi was in the picture or not, this would be something you'll carry through. And that's the real power in what you have to offer.
I definitely intend to. I feel like this platform has developed my character quite a lot. It teaches you to trust yourself. And also, it's not a competition. I feel like that's a big misconception in pageantry. We are all here working towards making a change. It's not about, am I better than so-and-so? Am I better than so-and-so? It's not about
networking, right? Because we can empower each other to fulfill.
We can empower each other. My cause and your cause can be related. We can work together to make this change.
Absolutely.
It's not about the competition. It's about, how English always fails
how we
me.
can
It's
lift
so
one
bad.
another. Yes, no, I feel you.
That's what I'm saying. But I stand by my word. I really want to build that library, and there is a place that I found. I'm not going to say just yet, but I'm so stoked. If I do get the chance to do this, that would be amazing for me. And going forward, it's just about getting sponsors and just getting the word out there and getting just the kind of attention that I need to make this happen.
Absolutely. Oh, wow. I'm really excited to see where this goes, because you are one of the most driven, capable individuals I think I've ever met in my life, which is why I absolutely had to have you on the podcast and in one of my first episodes.
Oh, thank you.
My second last question for you, right? What message do you want to leave with listeners who may be passionate about both neurodiversity and making literature more accessible?
Firstly, it's never too late to start. Okay. You can start making a change in your life at any time. If you feel like you have failed at a specific point in your life, whether you feel like you haven't been given the resources to do what you had to do, or you felt like information wasn't accessible to you, it's never too late to start reaching into the pot and trying to find something that works for you, that impacts you.
Because the world is constantly evolving, right?
Definitely.
And in that sense, accessibility is constantly evolving.
It's definitely always evolving. I mean, we do live in a third world country, and there are things that do impact this. However, there is so much out there. It's never too late to just open your phone, And now everything's on your phone. You can open your phone, you can get any kind of resource that you need on your phone, Yes. But just don't give up that hope that you can finally do something for yourself.
And particularly, I think, when it comes to the information that is so readily accessible, be discerning. Be discerning about what is factually based and what is based on a perception that someone is trying to sell you.
Definitely.
Definitely, 100%. Oh my gosh, I've loved this conversation. And please, please, please do reach out to both me and her. Where can people reach you? On your Instagram?
On my Instagram is alea.rsa, I think. I don't even know.
Perfect. We'll pop the link in the description below as well. Bio.
But thank you so much, Jenna, for this. I really appreciate it. It's been so fun. I genuinely enjoyed it. And can I ask you a question if that's fine?
Oh, yes. Oh, this is great. I never get asked questions.
What do you feel is the biggest thing that could impact neurodiverse people at this particular moment in time? What do you think is the biggest change that needs to be made currently for society to be more accepting of neurodiverse people?
Corporate needs to change. Corporate structures are particularly oriented against neurodiverse accommodation, like actively so. And I think a lot more awareness and a lot more normalcy around this conversation, hopefully, could create dynamics where companies can deformalize certain aspects of their business to make those connections possible, right? To add
definitely. Definitely. Oh, corporate's a mess.
Corporate is such a mess. You'll never catch me in corporate. Look at me.
Girl, I'm in corporate and I'm stifled, but I'm like, make me through. Soldier.
Like PTSD, man. It's literally PTSD if I think about it. And I worked in corporate for like a month. And I was like, I'm going to blow this popsicle stand. There's no way. Anyways, thank you so much for your incredible insights. We cannot wait to see where this journey takes you with Miss Jozi, and we are on your side and backing you all the way. Our listeners will be sending in their votes for you, and for the rest of you, please do tune in for another episode next week, same time.